meet my bride. Let's go for a ride in my newfangled automobile. Just where we will go, nobody knows, but it's sure a great way to feel. Behind the wheel of the speed meter steel, it's my newfangled automobile.
Hello and welcome to Vintage Car History. I'm Wild Bill. When designing a machine, it is generally accepted principle that the more moving parts a machine has, the more chances there are of something breaking. And cars have lots of moving parts. Engines, transmission, suspension, brakes, cooling systems, electrical systems. There's a lot that can go wrong. One way to reduce the chances of breakage is to use less moving parts. Simplify the design, build it rugged, and the car should give stellar performance. So today we're going to talk about an American businessman who built one of the most simple, rugged, and reliable cars of the early 20th century, Herbert Franklin. Herbie was born in Lisle, New York in 1866. His father was a school teacher and owned a farmstead as well. Young Master Franklin decided at a young age that farming was not for him, so he pursued his education with vigor, earning his business degree by the age of 18. Not wanting to return to the farm, he packed his bag and headed down the road to seek his fortune. He first found work in a nearby town as a laborer in a small factory that built sleighs. All of the workers were paid a day wage to do whatever part of the manufacturing process they were assigned, Herbert himself being given the task of prepping the bodywork for painting. But Herbie had an idea. If the workers were paid for each sleigh they completed instead of just a day wage, the workers would make more money and would work faster, which would mean more product to sell and more money for the owner. He pitched the idea to the big boss and he agreed, to everyone's delight. Though he enjoyed success as a sleigh builder, it wasn't exactly his passion, and while visiting his family, a cousin of his suggested that he come work for the Coxsackie Union, a newspaper where he was working. So off he went to become a typesetter. And though his skills were evident, and it didn't take long for Franklin to be handling the books, working with the advertising clients, and even writing articles, Herbert had found his first passion, and by the age of 27 was a part owner of the paper. Under his guidance, the Coxsackie Union became both popular and profitable. In 1893, Franklin found his next passion, inventions. Through a mutual friend, he met a Mr. Underwood, an inventor in Syracuse that developed a new type of industrial metalworking which he called die casting. Herbert was fascinated by this and sold his share in the newspaper to become the majority partner in Underwood's invention. Setting up shop in Syracuse, the two began to make small trinkets and refine the new process. However, Franklin wanted to start making things to sell, while Underwood wanted to still further refine the die-cast process. So Franklin bought him out and began to make things to sell, and thus make some money. His first product was a simple match holder with a striking surface for the new safety matches that were coming to the market at the time. These sold well and led to many other products, parts for typewriters, score tabulators for card games, bicycle bells, lots of stuff. By 1900, Herbert Franklin was a wealthy and well-respected businessman, and one of his local friends, John Wilkinson, also shared a passion for new inventions and, in fact, was working on a design of his own, a car. Wilkinson had been working on a new air-cooled engine for a few years and managed to get a couple of investors to pay for a prototype car with this engine. The story goes something like this. Early in 1901, Wilkinson took Franklin for a ride in his newfangled automobile, and Herbert loved it. Unfortunately, the car itself was in legal limbo with squabbles between Wilkinson and his investors. So, Herbert bought them all out, hired Wilkinson as his engineer, and renamed the concern the Franklin Automobile Company. Franklin believed in the principles of adding lightness and keep it simple. Their first cars rolled out of the factory in 1902 and were quite revolutionary. The chassis were made of oak, while much of the engine and body were made from die-cast aluminum. Aluminum dissipates heat much better than steel, and it's also much lighter, so no coolant was needed. Just the air flowing around the engine was all that was needed to keep the car from overheating. So much aluminum was used in each car that within 10 years, Franklin would be the largest consumer of aluminum in the world. Franklin cars were light, rugged, and very dependable. Built with 4-cylinder, 18 horsepower engines at first, by 1905 they offered 6-cylinder engines with 30 horsepower. In 1907, Franklin became the first American car to have an automatic ignition advance and retard. But their most famous car was the 1904 record-breaking Runabout. The year prior, a Winton crossed the USA, requiring some 63 days to accomplish it. But the 1904 Franklin accomplished the same feat in just under 33 days, about half the time that the Winton took. Herbert Franklin was a major player in the early automotive industry in America. From sleighs to newspapers to die casting to cars, he was successful in his endeavors. One might say he had the Midas touch. Yet his success was not by luck, but rather by intelligently applied hard work. Indeed, regarding his own principle of success, he once told a friend, quote, "The way to do a thing is to start doing it." Thanks for watching Vintage Car History, and we'll see you next week. Peace.